edition of Boxing 411. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Guys, I tell you what, I'm really excited for this show. One, because I get to share the air with my very dear friend, Mr. Rodney Green, and two, we have some great fights to discuss. But before we introduce the star of the program, we do have to remind everyone that this show is brought to you by FightSaga.com and Box.Buzz. For all your boxing news, guys, go to Box.Buzz, B-U-Z-Z. It serves as a hub for all major boxing media outlets. Also brought to you by EXP Realty and in Rod We Trust. Guys, for all your home mortgage loan needs, go visit in Rod We Trust. Guys, but this would not be an episode of Boxing 411 without the counsel of our very dear friend, the one and only Mr. Rodney Green. Rodney, how are you doing this evening, brother?
Man, doing well. Like I say, definitely feels like fall. Season's changing.
Love it, man.
And, man, I'm embracing it, and I'm loving it. And, yeah, I'm ready to talk some boxing tonight, sir.
Oh, man, we've got a lot. We've got a packed show for everybody. You know, and I'll say this, man. It's been a very long time since we've had to discuss a big, exciting, evenly matched card, right? These are two very evenly matched fights. This is like a classic doubleheader from the days of old that we used to see on HBO and Showtime. But the only difference is we're having to pay $75 for this one, and we used to get it for free on a regular basis on Showtime and HBO, right? And we'll discuss that a little bit later. Rodney, do you remember back in we'll talk about this a little bit later. I don't want to stink all over the event before we've discussed it and built it up. So, Rodney, I tell you what, this is, and it couldn't come at a better time, guys. It's going down this Saturday night, September 26th, on Showtime pay-per-view. It's going to be taking place at the Mohegan Sun Arena in Uncasville, Connecticut, in the doubleheader. The first match of the doubleheader is going to be Jermall Charlo defending his WBC middleweight world title against Sergiy Derevyanchenko. Oof, what a great fight. And in the showstopper, the final fight of the Showtime doubleheader, it's going to be Jermell Charlo unifying the 154-pound weight division with Jeison Rosario, and that's going to be for the WBC, WBA, and IBF Junior Middleweight Championship, the big one. This is also going to be for the Ring Lineal 154-pound championship. Rodney, if you had to actually pick, if your life depended on it, which one are you most looking forward to?
I'll probably say Derevyanchenko versus Charlo. I'm really intrigued with that fight because I think it's a good matchup. I think it's going to be an exciting fight. I think you're going to be able to see a lot of action from start to finish, and I think it's really going to be fireworks in that fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if someone gets knocked out. I also wouldn't be surprised if we see a fight of the year type of, performance from both fighters. So I'm very intrigued about that fight, though. I think it's a great stylistically well-placed matchup, and I'm really, really looking forward to that fight. And, man, I'm excited, man. I am really excited for Saturday.
Absolutely, brother. So would you like to start breaking this one down and discussing that matchup before we get into, the final fight of the evening, Jermell Charlo versus Jeison Rosario?
Yeah. First and foremost, I'm because I think Charlo and Derevyanchenko would be the most exciting fight. So I'm kind of surprised it's not the last fight of the evening. So I'm a little perplexed as far as the placement of the fights. But all in all, it still should be some good fights. But for us, Charlo and Derevyanchenko, man, I went and rewatched Triple G versus Derevyanchenko. I think it was 2 days ago, and I got to tell you, one thing about Derevyanchenko, man, he's resilient. He has a lot of heart. Now he can be hit, no doubt about that. But I think people underrate his boxing skills too. He applied nice pressure and really, puts a lot of mental pressure on you, or what he did Triple G in their last fight. Though I'm going to be intrigued to see will he be able to use that same tactic against Charlo. Very interesting matchup developing. But Charlo, one thing about it, he's a very explosive fighter, very athletic, and we know he has them hands of dynamite, man. And now, real quick, Joseph, can you verify, was any VADA or anything done for this fight that you know of? Any, anti-doping or anything like drug testing done for this fight?
Yeah, it's a very good question because the WBC is actually up for grabs in both affairs. Yes, VADA is mandatory. If you win the WBC and if you compete for any one of their titles, it's mandatory that you participate in VADA testing before the event. So yes,
gotcha.
both all four participants in both fights have been tested through VADA, and they'll be tested immediately after the event as well.
Okay. So, yeah, we're looking at this is just a great matchup, and I like the fact that there is testing involved to where we can eliminate any excuses once the final bell rings. Man, Charlo is so athletic, though, and he's shown promise. But, man, this is his stiffest test, in my opinion, Joseph, thus far as him facing Derevyanchenko. Now, Derevyanchenko, the key is, Joseph, how many miles does he have on him? Is he still that? Can he? He's a young fighter, not really old. I think he's had 16 fights at this point, Joseph. How many fights?
Yep,
Derevyanchenko.
that's it. Yep.
Okay, but he's
because of his deep amateur pedigree, Ludabella was able to accelerate him, just like Arthur Beterbiev, just like Gvatzik, just like Usyk, just like Lomachenko, right?
Right. And if you watch him fight, you can see, traces of his deep amateur background, his pedigree. If you really, tune in and hone in, you can see he has some really good skills that I think gets overlooked sometimes. But as I said, I think this is an even matchup, Joseph. The fight can go either way. One thing that we need to look at, too, they're going to be fighting in front of empty fans. So, as far as who has the butterflies, that might favor maybe Charlo because, as I said, it's a lot of pressure on the Charlo twin to have a successful outing as far as pay-per-view. They don't have to worry about, ticket sales or did they sell out the venue. They can just focus on taking care of business in the ring. But it will be very interesting, and like I said, I am so excited about this fight, Joseph. It has all the elements to be the fight of the year because I can see Derevyanchenko get knocked down early, but getting up and really testing Charlo will, his mental stamina, and maybe take him to a place where he has to really dig deep within himself to get the victory. So, I'm excited. The key I want to look at, too, is Charlo's jab because Triple G has a good jab, but Derevyanchenko was able to still
won
get
the
off
jab contest.
Yep.
Negated his jab by winning the jab contest. That's right.
Yep. So, that's what I'm looking for, and some of the things I think everybody out there, the boxing fans, need to be cognizant of, though, that jab contest, because whoever starts this early and often, I think that may be a pathway to victory.
Indeed. Very, very well said, Rodney, and very good job sizing this matchup. This is the big one, and I'll tell you exactly why. And remind me of this later, because I'm going to tell everyone exactly why this fight is first, Rodney. It has to do with one of our hashtags and one of our topics a little bit later on in the show. So please remind me to address all of this, because I know exactly why. I found out exactly why, right? But, guys, looking at this fight, and I have to address this, guys. On Sunday night, we went over the odds and we, advised and gave our opinion on how to bet the Jermall Charlo versus Jeison Rosario bout, right? We didn't encourage, but we advised and gave our opinion as to how to properly bet that event. And I received several messages saying, well, you didn't give your prediction, or you didn't advise as to how to bet Jermall Charlo versus Sergiy Derevyanchenko. Well, we purposely left that out, and that was for good reason. And this is one of the many factors that makes this fight the most intriguing of the entire evening. On most race and sports books, Jermall Charlo is listed as a minus 137. That's an even money fight. And then you look at Sergiy Derevyanchenko. He is pretty much virtually even money. He is listed as a plus 105. So, Rodney, if you bet $1,000 on this fight, on Sergiy Derevyanchenko to win, and he wins, pulls off the mild upset, you win a whopping $50, my friend.
Wow.
So that's why we didn't go over and advise people on how to bet. Now it's different. If you actually partake in a parlay, well, then that's different. That's just choosing straight up two winners, right? And you just use your own opinion. Right? That's different. A parlay is when you choose both fights, both winners in both fights. But, yeah, individually, guys, our advice, our professional boxing 411 advice would be to sit this one out. Do not bet on this one, because Vegas and any offshore race and sports book, they're not paying out enough for you to risk any of your money. So our advice to you professionally would be to sit this one out, guys, and just make your popcorn, get your cold beverage, and enjoy the fight. Don't worry about betting on this one, because it's not worth laying down your hard-earned money, because they're not paying out enough for this one. And that's our professional advice on Boxing 411. But, Rodney, that's, again, what makes this fight so intriguing. This is an even money matchup. In other words, the experts, the handicappers, no one knows who's going to win. They have a hunch, but no one knows how this one is going to play out. That's what makes it so exciting, right? But you have a feeling about this, don't you? As the title of our program tonight implicates, it says, will both Charlo brothers fall short on September 26th? What leads you to believe that Sergiy Derevyanchenko has a very good chance to pull off the mild upset on Saturday night?
As I alluded to earlier, I think Derevyanchenko is a underrated boxer. We see him as a bruiser, a brawler. But, man, some of those shots that he withstood with Triple G was very, very impressive. Now, I know, Charlo is heavy-handed, but, it doesn't get too much more heavy-handed with Triple G. And he was able to, take him. And to me, I had him winning the Triple G fight. I'm just going to be honest. I thought he did enough to win, but, the judges felt otherwise. But I think that when you really get into the championship rounds, rounds 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, man, I would not Derevyanchenko. I really would. I think he's going to have enough in the tank. I think he has his enough experience. And I think, by being in the ring with Jacobs and Triple G, I think that's going to play to his favor. I really do. I think that's going to benefit him. And, Charlo, I think he's going to hurt him early, though, Joseph, but he's not going to get him out of there. And that's how I see this fight, playing out. He will hurt him, but as round 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and see that he's still there, applying well thought out pressure, very meticulous, going to the body, and that's what I want to see. Can he get inside and go to the body? I think he can, but he's going to have to go through hell initially to get there. But I think once he gets there, though, Joseph, that's going to be the key to the fight as well, and I think that's going to turn the tables in his favor once he's able to reach Charlo to the body and continue to put that pressure on him to where Charlo really has to dig deep, though, really has to dig deep and really have to fight. Now, I'm not discounting Charlo at all because, man, he's very athletic, explosive fighter, but I really think, though, for them to be their first pay-per-view fight and actually their toughest fight, I think it may, man, backfire on them. I really do, though, Joseph.
Wow, I tell you what, so Rodney Green likes the upset. Now, do you think there's going to be a stoppage? Because very seldom, Rodney, do stoppages occur in elite-level matchups like this. There's a reason why both fighters are at this level, because their offense as well as their defensive skills are at the level where it's very difficult to knock guys out, right? Both of these gentlemen out. I mean, think about how Derevyanchenko, he's only 5'9". He's the smaller of the two fighters, but he's strong, he's durable, and he's well-conditioned. Whenever you have that kind of combination with that level of mental and physical durability, yeah, highly unlikely that you're going to get stopped. And, well, Jermall Charlo, he's proven to be a very physically and mentally tough gentleman, right? So the chances of there being a stoppage in this fight is, well, it's very slim. I can tell you this, though, Rodney. So are you choosing, then, the Sergiy Derevyanchenko mild upset by split or unanimous decision? Is that what you're saying?
Yep, exactly. Definitely split decision. I see him getting that is going in his favor. Now, usually with the A side, sometimes whether it's Floyd or Oscar De La Hoya, sometimes if it's a close fight, they're guaranteed to get a little home cooking, in my opinion. Possibly it can be the same way with the Charlos. They are headlining the event, but I don't know if they have enough superstar status to really have the type of influence with the judges. Because you got to understand, it's not going to be really no fans in the crowd, and sometimes that can have an effect too, because a lot of times fans cheer when you really didn't get hit or when it really wasn't no action. A lot of things to consider, but with those elements, I think it favors Derevyanchenko, though, for the upset, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, he is indeed going to be the aggressor. He's going to be the one seemingly dictating the pace of the fight. He's also going to be working more. He's going to be out-punching Jermall Charlo. That's almost a certainty. One of the reasons why I really like Sergiy Derevyanchenko as well in every single matchup in middleweight division, his damn footwork. My goodness.
Oh, my God.
He has flashes of Gavacic, Usyk, Lomachenko. It's almost like he graduated from that same boxing academy.
Man.
He is so proficient at rattling off a hard combination to the body and head, and he gets very low, and it's very difficult to counter effectively. He gets really low, and he'll rattle off a combination, then he'll step to the side. So he's not in the direct line of fire, and it makes it very difficult to counter him effectively. And he'll rinse and repeat. He'll do the same thing, and it'll frustrate the hell out of you. He'll keep turning you all the way around the ring, just like Lomachenko and just like Usyk.
Yeah.
And he'll be right there in front of you, and you won't be able to hit him because he'll keep spinning you. That's going to be Charlo's biggest detriment. So I guarantee you this, Rodney. What Ronnie Shields has written up, right, and what he's going to do is, one, boy, he's going to come out guns a-blazing. He's going to say, let's blitzkrieg this guy, and let's get him out of there before he revs up his engine and gets going. Don't be surprised, guys, if Jermall Charlo comes out, bombs away, and tries to turn it into and catch this guy cold. That's his only chance of scoring a knockout from the evening, right? So they're going to roll the dice and come out guns a-blazing. And they're going to, and it's twofold also, guys, because what that does also is it gets the respect of Sergiy Derevyanchenko. Then he becomes a little bit more tentative, like he did in the Danny Jacobs fight after getting knocked down in the first round. And he wasn't able to close that distance as quickly as he did against Gennady Golovkin, right? And that's the primary reason why he didn't get the decision against Danny Jacobs, because he wasn't able to close that distance until the back half of the fight, right? And that's what Ronnie Shields is hoping is going to have here. Either we're going to knock him out early, or we're going to make him a more tentative version of himself. Unless one of those two things don't happen, yeah, it's going to be a very tough day at the office for Jermall Charlo, Rodney.
Well, the thing about Derevyanchenko that really impresses me, he makes you reset, and he keeps you out of a rhythm. You know, if you look at when he fought Triple G, you know, Triple G, a deep amateur pedigree as well. Man, he flustered and befuddled him so much. Triple G would have to continue to reset, and his timing was like thrown off. You know, I mean, the guy's coming at you. You know, he squats low, gets good, sturdy balance, works your body, and then, like you say, he turns. I mean, that is a hard man to get his timing is not going to be easy. But as I said, you're right. If Charlo give him something to think about and make him a little gun shy, you know, that will be something that we can, you know, possibly witness as well. But as I said, man, this has fight of the year written all over it. As I said, it can be fight of the year, or it can be knockout of the year too, Joseph. I mean, like I say, if they blitzkrieg him, like they said, it can be knockout of the year. I can see it both playing out this way. I really can.
Absolutely, you can, and that's what makes this fight so intriguing. You can see this ending just a various different ways, right? Also, and this is one thing I noticed, guys, and it's going to be all in my head-to-head analysis and preview with my prediction coming up on FightSaga.com, and it's gonna be published on Friday, right after the weigh-in. One thing I did notice when I was reviewing Sergiy Derevyanchenko's fight tapes, he has a tell. You know, like when you're playing poker, and if you have a good card or a good hand, sometimes some players will have tells. Well, Sergiy Derevyanchenko has a tell when he resets mentally. Do you remember in the Wilder versus Fury fight, the first one, Fury gave away his tell by scratching his nose and his face, and that's why Deontay Wilder knew to go after him, and that's when he floored him in the 12th round? Well, Sergiy Derevyanchenko, if he's not careful and hasn't repaired this, he has a tell. And what it is a lot of times he'll get low, throw combination, scoot around you, then he'll come back, get low again, and then he'll pull up and straight back momentarily. When he does that, he resets. if you're able to time it perfectly, he can be hit with the straight right hand and the left hook. And I guarantee you, if I saw it, Ronnie Shields has seen it.
True.
Because he's an elite level trainer. But it's so quick, and you have to time it perfectly. But I guarantee you, with their sparring partner, Dennis Hogan, they've tried to replicate that. But that's the problem. How do you replicate that footwork when you're trying to prepare for this in camp?
It's tough.
How do you replicate that kind of movement and footwork of an elite-level talent like Sergiy Derevyanchenko?
Let me ask you something, Joseph, and this is something that we need to look at. When we look at the Charlo twins, how would you gauge their mental endurance? I mean, just based on their career and their competition, have they ever really been in a fight where they really had to show that fortitude, show those cojones to where, you know what, I can withstand this onslaught, I can stay calm? Because as I said, I think this is going to be by far, especially, with a fighter like Derevyanchenko, and I think we're underestimating his boxing skills. We're not underestimating him, but I think a lot of the public is underestimating him. But man, his mental endurance, though, that can. I mean, if we're gonna go with intangibles, I would have to go with Derevyanchenko. I really would, as far as the mental endurance. Absolutely. And one of the reasons why his handlers have been able to speed him along and get him title opportunities against guys like Danny Jacobs and guys like Gennady Golovkin before he even hit the 15-fight mark was because of that intangible of mental and physical durability, right? You look at his deep amateur pedigree. If you've been through that many amateur bouts at the world-class level, you've seen pretty much every style that you're going to see in the pros. And so, like, having a deep amateur pedigree, 300 fights in the amateurs, that's like having 40 pro fights already. That's the equivalent of having 35 to 40 fights already. And so, you've got that confidence. You've got that experience. Nothing phases you in the ring. If you get knocked down, you get up, you shrug it off, and you're able to put it behind you. Do the Charlos have that kind of mental durability? That's my, and really, we can't minimize that. Now, maybe they have it, but they haven't had to show it as of yet. Each. Rodney,
you remember when I told you I figured out why they actually spaced out the fights the way they have? It's for that reason, okay? Because we're going to bring this up, guys, and it was just reported by Boxing Scene, right, in which Jermall Charlo said, you know what, my toughest fight was Matt Korobov, former top-ranked fighter, on the same date that Jermell got robbed when he fought Tony Harrison, right? That says it all. And, we even stated that several weeks ago. You remember that, Rodney?
Yeah.
We said, I wouldn't be surprised if this were spaced out this way, because the last time they fought on the same card, Jermall Charlo couldn't handle his brother losing emotionally, and it really messed with his head in the toughest fight of his career against a real veteran and a master boxer like Matt Korobov, another gentleman with a deep amateur pedigree. Matt Korobov, though, is a totally different fighter. He's a southpaw and he's a sharpshooter, right? He's not going to outwork you. He's not going to throw as many shots. Boy, I tell you what, your head had better be in the game if you're going to take on someone like Sergiy Derevyanchenko. But that's why it's spaced out. So in the event that Jermall loses, it'll give Jermell some time to regroup and get composed and get his head back into the game. Because could you imagine, and this is, once again, this is the reason why the Klitschko's never wanted to fight on the same card. This is the reason why the Marquez brothers never wanted to fight on the same card, right? Because they couldn't deal with it. They couldn't deal with seeing their brother getting beaten up and then have to work and be able to focus on their opponent. It's a very, very difficult thing. And, yeah, they've fought on each other's cards, I think, like 6 or 7 times, but not against opponents like this.
Right.
Once again, this is going to be so that's why right immediately, guys, on the pay-per-view, immediately after this fight, Jermall Charlo versus Sergiy Derevyanchenko, there's going to be a 30-minute intermission, and then there's even going to be 2 more fights after that, and then there's going to be Jermall Charlo's fight against Jeison Rosario. That's why it's been spaced out this way. But I tell you what, though, this is one thing that really bothers me. And once again, this is kind of a mob tactic that they used to use in the 50s. I haven't seen it, though, in a very long time, and I've never seen it in my lifetime. But just from receiving and just spending time with our good friend Don Chargan, the late, great Hall of Fame matchmaker and promoter, he told me that the mob used to do certain things to try and sway the odds in their favor, to influence the judges, to influence the ref, to influence the audience, the crowd. And what they did was they would at times, leave their opponent off of the marquee. So everyone knew that it was the A-side show, right? And all promoters do, they try to influence judges and refs and audience members that same way. I mean, every promoter does it. And once again, these are tactics developed by the mob back in the 50s. Like, Rodney, for matchups at this elite level, have you ever seen a fight poster without both competing fighters?
Not in my lifetime. And I've been watching boxing for probably 35 years. I've never seen it. Especially on a pay-per-view, this is very odd.
Yeah,
very
you
strange,
look at the official fight poster, Rodney, and you see both Charlo brothers. Where the hell is the IBF and WBA junior middleweight champion?
Yeah, and
he's the one with the 2 titles. You don't see him anywhere on the poster. You see his name in very small print. That's it.
Yeah. And if I'm Rosario, I take that as an insult. That may be enough to say, you know what, I have to go out here and prove I'm wrong again. You want to disrespect me in that fashion? Okay, I'm gonna let my fist do the talking in the ring. But as I said, that's very odd. If it was a mob tactic and it happened in the 50s, then maybe it was really prevalent. Whether it's been Don King or Bob Arum or just, I've never seen a promotional banner advertise a fight this way, where you just only highlight the A-side fighters and not give the opponent any kind of pub or respect, I should say, as far as
if they're wide odd fights, if they're wide odds, right? If like the headliner is a 12-1 betting favorite or 15-1 betting favorite, then I've seen certain fights where it just shows the headliner because his opponent has no chance of winning. But this is an elite level matchup. This is a unification bout, Rodney.
Right. Yeah.
Both
absolutely.
fights are elite level, even money fights, right? This is the very first time. Like, let me ask you something. When Thunder and Lightning, Chavez fought Meldrick Taylor on HBO, did you only see Chavez Sr.? Did you only see Julio Cesar Chavez on the marquee? No. You saw both men equal billing. That was a unification bout for the WBC and the IBF. That was a unification bout. And keep in mind, that was on regular subscriber HBO as well, guys. Just wanted to throw that in there. That was back in 1990, Rodney. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir. Never forget it.
Yep.
Never will forget it.
I've never seen a fight in which two elite-level matchups and their opponents are left off of the fight poster. Yeah, if I were both fighters, I would be pissed. And even though Jeison Rosario is the IBF and WBA junior middleweight champion, he's going to be entering the ring first, and he's going to be announced first by Jimmy Lennon Jr. That's a guarantee. And once again, this is nothing new, guys. All promoters do things of this nature. Never on the fight poster I've seen in my lifetime, but Rodney, when you go and cover a fight and you get the bout sheet, they make it very clear that all of their fighters are going to be competing out of the red corner all night long.
Yep.
This is done to try and, sway the judges at ringside, to remind them, hey, this is our guy. This is the guy that should win the fight. Pay attention to this guy. He's the next star of boxing. Top-ranked fighters are going to be in the red corner. Guys, it's a common practice, and once again, these were all tactics made by the mob in the 50s. And it's funny, Rodney, as a history lesson to fans, a lot of people think that, they used to just fix fights, and you know what? And there is evidence on occasion where they actually tried to influence the fighters, the judges, and the referees by use of force or money, right? Or just influence. But that was very rare. It was a lot less common than most fans believe, right? They knew, like the mob knew, just like in Vegas, right? If you completely rig the game, they're going to stop playing. And if you completely rig these fights, people are eventually going to tune out and stop watching. So they came up with these tactics like trying to hoard all the champions. And if you wanted to fight one of their champions, they were going to get options on your next three fights if you pulled off the upset, and they would implement an immediate rematch clause. Does that sound like something familiar that you're used to seeing in the sport today, Rodney?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this.
That was made by the mob, dude.
Yeah. Now, is there a rematch clause in this fight, Joseph? Or these two headliners, are they rematch clauses?
I honestly have no idea, and one of the reasons why is I don't know how much longer both men are going to be in their weight divisions, respectively. And just like in the Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez, there is no rematch clause because it's rumored or highly suspected that Vasyl Lomachenko is going to be campaigning at 130 pounds after this fight with Teofimo Lopez. Gotcha. So as far as I know, there isn't one, but if this ends up being a huge moneymaker and a Fight of the Year candidate, I can't imagine why it wouldn't be a rematch clause or an immediate rematch, right? This is all going to be contingent on the economics. Right? If this is a big hit, and it's a fun fight, and it's a Fight of the Year candidate, then yes, expect an immediate rematch, guys. But if Charlo, if he has problems and gets out by the by the skin of his teeth, if there's no rematch clause, don't look for him to be knocking down Jeison Rosario's door any time soon, as well as Sergiy Derevyanchenko. Your final thoughts on this before we start talking about Jeison Rosario versus Jermell Charlo?
Great fight. I would really encourage all my boxing brethren to support this fight, buy the fight, and I think we're going to see fireworks. And you mark my word, it can be Fight of the Year or it can be Knockout of the Year. I don't see too much in between. I don't see it really being a boring fight or a fight that lacks action. I think we're going to get our money's worth just on that fight alone. So get your popcorn because, man, that's going to be a show. And I'm looking forward to that fight, Joseph. I cannot emphasize enough, man. Let's go. Let's get it.
Yeah, this is going to be a fight of the year candidate. I can't imagine how it wouldn't. The only the only way I can see this not living up to its entertainment potential is if Charlo is successful in blitzkrieging Derevyanchenko and stopping him early, catching him cold. That's the only way I can't see this or can see this not living up to its entertainment potential. But boy, wouldn't that be sensational?
Yep.
But it's highly unlikely, guys. You know, when you're fighters at this level, very seldom is there a knockout, right? Unless you're in the heavyweight division. But let's look at, speaking of highly likely knockouts, let's look at Jermall Charlo versus Jeison Rosario. Guys, Jermall Charlo is coming into this event as a surprising 4-1 betting favorite. Jeison Rosario is listed as a very live 3-1 betting underdog. But that's actually quite surprising, seeing that this is a unification bout. Are you a bit surprised, Rodney, that Charlo is listed as a 4-1 betting favorite over the very sturdy and hard-punching Jeison Rosario?
Yeah, very surprised. I don't think they understand truly how much of a difficult matchup Rosario is. Man, tough game fighter. You know, looks very durable, and he surprised a lot of boxing folks with his heavy hands, and he gets all that into, what is he, around 6'2", 6'1"? How tall is Rosario?
He's 6 foot. He's 6 foot.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I would think it would be a little bit closer. But as I said, you know, maybe they haven't seen enough of Rosario to really believe that he can, you know, pull off the upset or really, you know, is a true live dogs come Saturday night. But I wouldn't sleep on him because, man, as I said, what I've seen thus far, he can give you a lot of problems, or anybody in the 154-pound weight class.
Well, what scares me for Charlo about this fight is looking at Rosario's knockout performance over J-Rock. He fought a very disciplined and focused fight in which he shadowed him. He shadowed him the entire time, was absolutely brilliant in cutting off the ring, closing the distance, establishing an irregular jab, and most importantly, because of his sturdiness, because of his chin, his willingness to punch with his opponent. He was fearless. He wasn't worried about what he was getting.
Mm-mm.
A lot of times you'll see guys, even like Gennady Golovkin, who will cover up or step out of range and won't start firing until their opponent stops shooting, right? But Jeison Rosario, what makes him such a scary and dangerous fighter, this is a guy who's going to try to punch with you and counter you as soon as you let your hands go. And as we've seen since Jermall Charlo has started working with Derek James, he's turned into a much more fan-friendly fighter who likes to let his hands go in regularity. What's going to happen when he tastes that first right hand as he throws out the jab? Now, keep in mind, Charlo isn't going to be the taller man in the ring this time.
Yep.
He's not going to be able to just sit on the outside and dictate the pace of the fight. Both men have almost the exact same reach and are of similar height. Charlo's not going to be able to bully his smaller opponent this time. And we saw that gave him problems against Tony Harrison. But unlike Tony Harrison, who is the same height and same reach as Jermell Charlo, he's not a cutie pie like Coach Gogi likes to say. He's not a guy who just likes to sit on the outside and box you. Use the entire ring. Jeison Rosario is going to be right in your grill. He's a guy who's going to be looking to counter you every single time you let your hands go. This is a scary fight for Jermall Charlo. And in my opinion, this is going to be his undoing, Rodney. In my opinion, just like Dillian White, his balls are going to be way too big for his own good, and that's going to be his undoing, brother. So just like we told everyone last night, right, or on Gogie's show on Sunday, this is a very, very enticing fight to bet on. Guys, at 3-1 odds, the safe bet's going to be put your money on a Rosario knockout, straight-up knockout, straddled with a Charlo decision. Your thoughts on this? Did I leave anything out, or do you see anything that I missed, Rodney?
Well, no, one thing about Rosario, you know, and just to piggyback on what you said, how he's in your grill, man, he shows good patience and technique, and that's where he's at. He's in your grill. He doesn't give you time to, you know, really take time off or, you know, really be go through a lull because, man, he's right there. And as I said, since, you know, as you just stated, you know, since he's been with Derek James, he does fight in a more he's in more firefights, I should say, more fan-friendly type fights. But if Rosario can establish himself from the bell and, like you say, cut off the ring, again, mental stamina. Your mental stamina is going to be tested because this guy is not going nowhere, okay? It's no, knockout that happens, you know, in the first 2 rounds. You're not fighting someone who's the smaller man and who doesn't have any power to make you think about, you know, something. So that's what I see it coming down to, the fact that I think Rosario will, by him being able to be in front of Charlo all night, I think he's going to start around round 3 or 4, really start to connect and impose his will. And speaking of J-Rock, man, when Rosario fought J-Rock, Joseph, every time he hit J-Rock, it seemed like it hurt him. It seemed like it
shook him.
It
sure
made
did.
him. Yeah, it shook. Exactly. There you go. It shook him. So I mean, really, he has the power to where you don't really see it as like a thudding knockout power, one-punch power, but it's accumulation of the fight. Because, again, he's right there in your face, and he's touching you. He's touching you, and it starts to have an effect. I'm going to be curious to see how that plays out against Charlo. Very curious, Joseph.
Yeah, if we see the Jermell Charlo who fought Gabe Rosado several years ago, this could be a less eventful fight than we anticipate, and it could be an easy decision for Jermall Charlo. But at this stage of his career, as confident, I mean, you have to understand, they're brimming with confidence, and they want to make a huge impression in their first opportunity fighting on the pay-per-view platform, right? I can't imagine Charlo just electing to dance for 12 rounds and not engage. I can't imagine it, guys. This is why I'm saying this could be a disastrous fight for Jermall Charlo, and his balls may prove to be way too big for his own good. Your final decision, prediction on this fight, Rodney?
I'm going to go with, and I hate to say this because it really puts the light and universe on the judges. I'm going to go with a split decision, controversial decision, either a draw or Charlo. And I think at the end of the night, a lot of folks might scream robbery, to where, I mean, I can foresee that happening. I can foresee it happening. Charlo survives knockout or survives, you know, the onslaught, just barely enough to finish the fight, and the judges tend to give him man, a controversial win. I really see that happening, Joseph.
You know what, brother? I could realistically envision that scenario playing out in both fights, actually, Rodney. That both Charlos get a very controversial split and unpopular decision in both fights. I could see that happening. My official prediction, like I said, I'm going to put out both head-to-head articles on Friday, but I can't wait. I'm just going to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. This is what I think is going to happen. I think Ronnie Shields, and maybe I'm being a homer on this one, but I truly believe his prophecy that he is going to floor Sergiy Derevyanchenko early and maybe even multiple times in this fight, turn Sergiy Derevyanchenko into a more tentative version of himself in the first half of the fight, and they're going to win a unanimous decision against Sergiy Derevyanchenko, Jermall Charlo. Now, in the final event of the evening, Jermall Charlo versus Jeison Rosario, like I said, I think this is going to be a disastrous fight a la J-Rock, right? Where there's going to be a point in this fight where he's going to elect to sit in the pocket, or he's going to get caught on the ropes, and he's not going to have any choice but to sit and trade with Jeison Rosario. And that's going to be his undoing. I can see Jeison Rosario eventually cutting off the ring, closing the distance, and stopping him in the mid to late rounds. So I actually like Jermall Charlo by unanimous decision against Sergiy Derevyanchenko and Jeison Rosario to become the unified and lineal champion at 154 pounds by way of spectacular knockout. That's my prediction. But, you know, anything can happen, guys, when it's a fight of this magnitude and fights that are this evenly matched. These are even money fights. Rodney, when's the last time you had to make a prediction on a spectacular even money fight at this level? It seems like it's what, Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury, maybe?
Yep, that was it. That was, I was just thinking about that. That was it. Yep. And
well, just like you got that one right, we'll see how you fare on Saturday night. Should be an excellent fight, guys. And once again, it's going to be offered on Showtime pay-per-view for $74.95, and it's going to have a very a different, an unusual start time of 7 p.m. Eastern time. Right, so everyone on the West Coast, you better clear your schedule this Saturday day, or get your shopping done early. Wow, man, can you imagine that? 4 p.m. Pacific.
Man,
it's going to start 4 p.m.
Man, that's
I mean, that means you're going to see the Derevyanchenko Charlo fight by like 6 or 6:30.
Yep.
Jeez. Yeah, that's too early in my book. If I'm going to be going to a main event that early, I'd better be at the MGM Grand myself, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I tell you what, just one final topic. We're not going to be able to get to everything, guys. And as much as I would love to talk about Julio Cesar Chavez versus Jorge Arce 3 this Friday night on DAZN, we're going to have to pass on that. Can you believe that's happening? That's on DAZN. That's what DAZN has to offer us for our $10 subscription rate, right?
Yeah.
That's what they have to offer at this time. Unbelievable. So this Friday, you know, we're on DAZN. We're going to see Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. versus Jorge Arce, and then in the undercard, Chavez Jr. versus Mario Cáceres. Chingao, dude. Boy, DAZN, how the mighty have fallen. My word. But no, the last topic I'd like to discuss today, I'm going to get your thoughts on this. You're always very insightful, Rodney. So, Jermell Charlo recently stated on a podcast with Steven Jackson, he said, and this is almost too funny, right? And you can't make this stuff up. He really said this. He said, after everything is said and done, Jermell believes the legacy he and his brother will leave behind will be on the level of the Klitschko brothers. And I'm gonna read his quote, as reported by Boxing Scene. Quote, I say as big as the Klitschkos or even bigger. We want to be champions together in the same weight division again if that's possible. We just want to be legends where people follow our platform and they recognize every time they see us, they're like, man, they dogs. And they looked out for people. They were good people. We don't want people to just think that we're some crazy warriors that just walk around banging their bats against poles and stuff. We want people to understand that we're really serious about the sport of boxing, that we're passionate and we love the game, but we will love life and family as well, end quote. Rodney, I don't... Wow,
Man,
they foresee their careers being as big as the Klitschkos, 2 first-ballot Hall of Famers.
Yeah, and here's the problem. The Klitschkos were heavyweights, and they were at heavyweights at a time where the heavyweights were such, adored. And they did so much, I think, for the sport from, like you say, a global perspective. Very gentlemanlike, carried themselves accordingly, and they reigned for almost 15 years. So for the most part, I think from the early 2000s to up into like 2015 or 16, those guys were still relevant in the sport of boxing. So even in their down years, they still had such an impact. And like I say, but they carried the sport so well, and we can't minimize, they was able to benefit from HBO platform as well. And them guys not only won fights, but they were in some memorable fights, man, from Lennox Lewis, Sam Peter, Corey, even some of the fights they lost, were very exciting fights. When he lost to Corey Sanders, remember, in such dramatic fashion. But they bounced back,
what made them so spectacular is their brother always had their back. Their brother always avenged their loss.
He sure did. Yep. And that's what made them such unique, to where it was a brotherly love, but they did it in such a classy demeanor, Joseph. You've never seen them guys doing anything to where it would, look bad on the sport. They conduct themselves as first-class gentlemen, and it's the reason they're first ballot Hall of Famers. So if the Charlos are gonna, replicate that or duplicate that, and they have a lot of work to do. They really do.
You mean to tell me you don't remember seeing Vladimir Klitschko pull out his assault rifle in the sauna and badmouth his brother? You don't remember that video?
No.
Rodney?
I never remember that. But I do remember where the Klitschko's moms told him, remember, you always take care of your little brother, no matter what. And, and he was
always right there in his ring. He was always right there in his corner whenever he fought. Yep.
Yeah, he had it back.
Yep.
Rain, sleet, or snow. So that's what made them so unique, though, in my opinion.
Absolutely. They were awesome ambassadors for the sport of boxing. And that's something that the both Charlo brothers, with as much respect for them as I can muster, they seriously need to work on that, being the consummate ambassadors for the sport. Because right now, mainstream America, they're currently holding them at arm's length. And, in the immortal words of Don Henley of the Eagles, this could be heaven or this could be hell, this event on Saturday night for the Charlo brothers.
Yep.
Because when you look at how much pressure they're putting on themselves, Rodney, I mean,
Yep.
you know what? It's almost like when I was actually doing PR for fighters, I would always tell them, you know what? Don't badmouth your opponent, because if you struggle with these guys, it's going to make you look stupid. Okay, but if anything, talk about how good your fighter is, how capable it is, and how tough of a fight it's going to be. So when you whoop his ass in the ring, boy, it's going to look like you really did something. Boy, but these Charlos, these guys are talking like already being in the Hall of Fame. So in your opinion, if you had to make a guess, Rodney, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, brother, if you had to make a guess as to which brothers their careers would most closely resemble, do you think the Charlos are going to look more like the Klitschko brothers or the Durrell brothers when things are all said and done?
I could definitely foresee the Durrell brothers. You know, man, the Klitschkos reached such lofty heights, and their backstory makes them, you know, interesting as well. You know, one being a doctor. I mean, just
they're both being doctors. They both have PhDs.
Yeah, exactly. Two guys who didn't really have to fight, but still wanted to fight, and they did the sport such a service with their, you know, integrity, their professionalism. Man, that's going to be tough to beat, though. I don't think we'll ever see that again, though, Joseph. Two guys who accomplished so much and was blood brothers and showed class inside the ring and outside the ring, but always showed brotherly love, too. See, that's the thing. It was no competition between them. It was no competition. Sometimes you see that with the Charlos, and I think that, man, ultimately that can be their undoing, though, eventually. So we'll see.
Very good, very well said, Rodney. Yeah, and we will see. And most importantly, we'll see if they can make it out of these two elite level matchups in one piece this Saturday night. This is going to be a great event, guys. And once again, let me you know what, man? I haven't been this excited for a fight in a very long time, guys. Thank you, boxing. Thank you, PBC. Thank you, Showtime. Thank you, Charlo Brothers. God bless you. Thank you, Lord. But I'll say this, though. Rodney, do you remember a unification bout at 135 pounds took place about 15 years ago? Jose Luis Castillo versus Diego Corrales.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Do you remember that fight? It was in Christmas time.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
Right? And that was a unification bout for all the marbles at 135 pounds, right? And in the undercard, it was, if I'm not mistaken, Juan Manuel Marquez versus Victor Polo, right? Or Polo. That was for free on regular subscriber Showtime. And that was just 15 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't get any better than that. That was a fight of the year and almost fight of the decade candidate, right? That fight. And it was a unification bout. It was for all the marbles at 135 pounds. It was the Lopez-Lomachenko of 2005. And that was for free. The only problem I have with this event coming up is that it's for $75. That's it. I mean, I'm still going to pay it because, yeah, I understand they have no live gate. They're offering 6 fights. This is a great twin bill, and it's much better than us going without seeing these great fights. So I'm going to go ahead and pay for it. But just like I brought up earlier also, 1990, unification bout at 140, Meldrick Taylor versus Julio Cesar Chavez. That was for all the marbles at 140. And it was for free on regular subscriber HBO.
Yep.
We shouldn't have to pay for matchups of this nature. And it's not just, I don't mind footing the bill for it. The thing that sucks about it, if they score a big hit on pay-per-view and win in a resounding, sensational manner. Guess what? No one's going to see it. No one's going to see it, Rodney.
Yep.
That's the problem. That's the biggest issue I have on this. Your final thoughts before we bid everyone adieu.
Well, just want to tell all the fans, thank you for tuning in. Again, we have some great boxing on this weekend. Hopefully you can support it. As I said, even though we do have some reservations that it shouldn't be on the pay-per-view platform. But, at the end of the day, boxing needs our support, and I hope you guys support it to the best of your abilities. And I'm excited, and I cannot wait to come back 7 days from now and really talk about what we witnessed Saturday night. And it can either be feast or it can be famine, but we're about to find out, baby.
Oh, guys, he's Rodney Green. You can hear him every Tuesday night on Boxing 411. And I'm going to end this like a Larry Merchant, right? I'm going to do my best Larry Merchant on this, right? Yes, I'm going to pay these $75 because it's my beloved boxing. Let's just pray that boxing loves us back this Saturday night. And that's it.
Love it.
Tell you what, Rodney, it's always a pleasure to share the air with you. Thank you once again, brother. Amazing job. I love your predictions. Loved how you signed it up. And, guys, if you missed any part of the show, you can check it out in about an hour. It's going to be on our YouTube platform, guys. But that's going to just about do it, guys. We want to thank you so much for tuning in. On behalf of Mr. Rodney Green, I'm Joseph Herron. You've been listening to Boxing 411. Have a great evening, everybody.